Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another podcast episode of Insights by X Season 2. Today, we are bringing to yet another speaker who has been extremely captivating to our entire IPM junior audience and has delivered an exciting speech as well as a session, very interactive session with our juniors on entrepreneurship and the venture capital space as well as experience with starting Stoicus Legal and the various hats he's won. He has worked with the venture capital industry. Sir, Mr. Kaushik Rajan is also a founder of Stoicus Legal. He has been he has worked with the venture capital industry and has also been an executive coach. So Mr. Rajan as well has been an ISB alum. And we were extremely glad to have interacted with him. And today Mr. Rajan will also be talking about the working with a different amount of entrepreneurs, coaching them through their ventures, working in M&A as well as his amount of days of work as a lawyer as well. So I welcome Mr. Rajan to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming, sir.
Thank you, Ayush, and everyone for having me here. Thank you to the eSale team and to the Outside X team for having me here. Very glad to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. So primarily, the first question right off the bat was that we've directly come right after your very insightful session with the juniors. So what was your interaction with the juniors like? What was your initial impressions of the junior batch?
Very insightful questions, very challenging questions, very thrilling questions. I really had to think a lot. But when one teaches to learn, and it was definitely a learning experience for me as well.
Right, so a couple of questions that they asked, I was very intrigued about as well, because they started off with asking you because you had done law, and then you went while Nalsar was being established, as you told us as well, sir, and then you ended up doing an MBA from ISB as well. So could you walk us through that journey about finding different career paths and then finding your niche in different areas as well?
I would say law was more of an accident than anything else, and I feel the MBA was more out of curiosity and planned curiosity than anything else. It was not to get away from being a lawyer, but more to understand what else is out there. And I think that MBA did serve its purpose to that extent that I knew that there was a path which I could create and design for myself, which did not necessarily have to follow the set paths followed by my predecessors. Being a lawyer in an MBA program is itself sort of making yourself an outlier. So not too many people to look up to or follow paths of. But if one were to be clear about what they want to achieve out of the journey, and it's not something you can get clarity in one day, it's probably something you can get clarity over a few months or years, then yes, if you consistently work towards that, then you can, I think, achieve something substantial for yourself. So I hope that this session would be insightful for anyone listening in terms of how to design and craft that niche or path for themselves as well.
Right, so actually taking the thread further, we also had a question in our session as well, which I wanted to draw on and extend as well. The fact that you have found a very interesting niche right now with Stoicus Legal as well, and you have been working a lot in the sphere where you are in the confluence between management and law. So could you also walk us through how you found that out to be your niche as well, how you could extend your experience as well as your skills and capabilities into this venture?
So hindsight is always 20/20. It's easy to say now that yes, this gives an incredible level of value to the clients. How I explain it to people perhaps not so familiar with it is you can consider lawyering and advising and giving legal advice as the vanilla ice cream. You can throw in the strategy and the finance from the MBA and all the skill set that accompany that as the chocolate sauce on top. And when you throw in the questioning and challenging of assumptions that come from having been an executive coach, those are the almonds and pistachios which make the sundae so beautiful. So overall, the client sort of engages me expecting something and they get something way beyond their expectations, which makes them want to come back for more, because at least in their experience, it's not something they've experienced ever before. To my knowledge, I don't think I have come across anybody else doing that in the legal profession, at least, which is implementing coaching skill sets into lawyering conversations as well as in giving advice. And I'm excited to see where that goes. Let's see.
Right, so actually taking this a step forward, I wanted to also delve into your experience as an executive coach. So you've been interacting with a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs, and then guiding them through their journey as well. So what has that been like, sir? And how did you stumble across that being also a part of your niche?
Yes. founders and startup founders are immensely harried and hustled. They are hurried for time. They don't have time to think. Coaching offers them that white space to actually slow down and think about what their next step is going to be.
Right.
The value that they are able to derive from the coaching session for themselves is immense, because there's no judgment over there. There's no opinion. There's no preset conception that the coach brings into that conversation. It's just curiosity, finding out what else do you have in your mind as an assumption? What else do you have in your mind as a blind spot, which is not serving you, which is holding you back, which is preventing you from becoming a more effective leader, which is preventing you from inspiring your team to do better. And that kind of experience is invaluable for the startup founder, because no matter how many mentors they have access to, no matter how many experts they have access to, no one has as much access to their minds to be able to show them the mirror way below the 3 or 4 levels of onion peeled out, that look, this is who you are and this is how you think at a very deep level, and that may not be helpful to you. So the founders whom I'm coaching currently, they sometimes come to me with problems about, okay, I need to sort out problems with my co-founder. Sometimes it's about how do I expand to the United States. Sometimes it's about this particular product is not working and I'm coming up against a dead wall. How do I overcome this? Sometimes it's about I'm having problems in communicating with my team and they're not listening to me, or they're not getting motivated enough by me. Sometimes it's I'm running out of cash. I don't know what to do. There's always a solution. Everything is figure outable. And always the solution lies with the founder themselves. That's the premise of the coaching. And my job is to just peel away the layers of onions to get to the root of the problem and then show them the solution within their own minds.
Right.
And then they're surprised. I knew this all along. Eureka. But it's not Eureka really. It's you knew this. You just didn't know that you knew this. No one took the time or the effort to actually show you that you had the capability, you had the solution, you just did not think. And then, of course, after you think, you have to act. It's not just thinking, you have to act. Unless you're a doer, there's no point in just being a thinker. So the coach holds you accountable for being the person who takes action. And then the actions accumulate over time to lead to a particular result. Coaching is very, very process oriented. It's not results oriented, but the process sort of nudges you towards the result that you desire.
Right. So I think this was a very nuanced and insightful answer for me as well. So because I can see even everything from finances to handling conflicts with a co-founder, you've actually talked about how all of that still boils down to a mindset that a person embodies. So sir, delving into the experience of coaching and entrepreneurs as well. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your philosophy behind bootstrapping or fundraising as well, because in the current industry we've seen a lot of Indian startups and a lot of global startups raised humongous amounts of funding. At the same time, a lot of startups who've done it completely bootstrapped and are generating insane amounts of revenue. So what's your philosophy behind that, sir?
I've done a fair amount of long distance running in my life, so I'm going to give an analogy from that particular realm. So I have a lot of respect for bootstrap founders. They have been able to perhaps scale without the financial resources that others who have funding have. Being a bootstrap founder is like running a marathon. It's making sure that you have the carbs before the race. It's making sure that you are well practiced, well rehearsed, well slept, well rested, and then starting the race at a pace which you can sustain for the entire 5 or 5.5 hours that you're going to be running that marathon. In some cases, it's 5 or 5.5 years of bootstrapping journey before you finally manage to have an exit. Being a VC invested founder is a very different ballgame. The rules of the game are different. The rules of the game are scale and numbers. It's about valuations. It's about how you can constantly showcase growth. It's not about being profitable so much as it is about how can you constantly showcase growth in revenues. Nowadays, yes, founders are also being asked to be profitable. But more important than that is the investors wanting to see a growth in the revenues. Because only when you showcase a growth in revenues will they be able to get further rounds of funding and then, of course, get an exit themselves. And they're only worried about getting an exit themselves. It's more like running sprints and then maybe getting 30 seconds of rest and then running another sprint. And then maybe getting another 30 seconds of rest and then running another sprint. It's a different set of muscles that one has to exercise for sprinting versus long distance running. You also are not running alone. You are probably running a relay where you're going to be working with others who are also going to be running that race with you. So you're going to have to make sure that not only you, but also your team is well motivated and well hydrated to be able to reach the final stop point of that race together. If you're bootstrapped, it may be a good idea to also be a solo founder, because not all co-founders will have the same appetite as you. They may or may not have the same risk appetite. They may also want to go the fundraise way. So I have, in fact, I'm advising another solopreneur, and there was another solopreneur whom I advised who had a very successful exit. They were able to scale immensely with just teams of 10 to 15 people. But because it was based on them and they wrote the code, they just engaged a team to deliver those aspects of the execution. They did it all themselves. They were able to rally the team around because it was just them and they did not have to worry so much about carrying a co-founder. If you're running a VC game, then you're not going to get invested in if you're a solopreneur. VCs require at least 2 co-founders. So that is ruled out for you if you're a solopreneur. The VC way is probably ruled out for you. So solopreneur may possibly be an advantage in a bootstrapped game where you're actually looking to scale to a particular level and then sell your business, versus being the traditional YC sanctioned way of having 2 co-founders, having a tech business and then scaling to a particular level.
Right. So I mean, so even here I have found a lot of insights for myself as well, in case being bootstrapped has its own pros and cons, and being venture funded as well has its own pros and cons. So in this situation, in your experience, what are the most prevalent or the most out there mistakes that you see entrepreneurs make during the journey to starting up as well?
I think one mistake that gets repeated very often as a recurrent theme is believing that once I have this particular level of revenue or particular level of a startup, then I will go in for fundraise, etc. Whereas you may be in a sector which is blue ocean, so you don't know the rules of the game. So one way to do it would be to actually get out there and see if you want to raise funds even earlier. However, the bigger pitfall over there is, before they start out with all of this, there's a very less amount of self-reflection which happens in terms of what do I want out of this venture and why am I doing this? Now, the reason I say that is because there are going to be probably 33.33% days which are going to be terrible, another 33.33% days which are going to be average, and maybe if you're really lucky, then the remaining will be good days. And probably the percentage is going to tilt towards the bad days being more than the good days. Your why will come in handy in those days when it's not so good. So your why could be that I want to create something bigger than myself. Your why could be I feel that there is this kind of customer who is unserviced in the world and I want to build something for them. Your why could be as simple as I want to set an example for my child as to how to be an entrepreneur. Right. I want them to not be a part of the rat race and the corporate ladder, and there's no other better way of teaching than by showing. And by doing this, if nothing else, I'm showcasing for them what it means to be an entrepreneur. But your why is incredibly important. Most people don't stop to question, why am I doing this? They always focus on the how and the what, but they don't look at why. And that why is probably the only factor which will prevent you from giving up when it's really, really tough. Also, it will hold your ambitions in rein when you're getting over ambitious. If you're deviating from your why and looking at someone else's why, then probably you need to question yourself on why you're doing it on that day.
Right, sir. I mean, in this situation as well, I'm also in contact with a lot of student entrepreneurs as well who consistently tell me the same thing as well, that finding their why was something that they also helped a lot in their journey, because especially as a student entrepreneur, which by no means is a very big deal, which I realized later once I've talked to people that are doing some phenomenal work. Finding the why as well is something that has been very instrumental towards them being able to handle 5 things in parallelly as well. So, sir, actually, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about your experiences with the venture capital industry as well. So, you worked with the industry for a very long time. And I wanted to ask you, what are the key experiences that you feel you've taken from there and you've imbibed in your current experiences as well?
So, venture capital is immensely important for the startup ecosystem. And bear in mind that we have borrowed heavily from the Silicon Valley in terms of not just the concept, but also in terms of the nomenclature, our term sheets, all the clauses in those term sheets are heavily borrowed from Silicon Valley. And there have been some original thinkers over there who have actually done this and pioneered this entire ecosystem. The entire ecosystem is built on the premise that early capital will lead to exponential returns, and along with a healthy risk appetite for those which do not lead to any returns at all. So venture capital is immensely important. I know some people refer to venture capitalists as vulture capitalists, but I don't cater to that philosophy. Though I do believe that we have heavily borrowed to an extent where we have not really thought about whether it's providing value or not, to replicate the same model in India as what worked over there. In India, the Jugaad system was prevalent and it's ingrained in our DNA. Now, you see lots and lots of frauds coming up in recent years about founders doing this, founders doing that. I'm also myself advising one startup which is dealing with such a situation. We have to recognize that there is a Jugaadu system prevalent in Indian entrepreneurs, and that's part of the hustle culture. It's probably a bit different from the hustle culture in the Silicon Valley. The way we approach a particular problem would also to see whether the boundaries of the problem are valid or not, and we test those boundaries. Now, venture capitalists have probably recognized the situation also, and that's why probably the clauses have become even more watertight in recent times, because the level of diligence that they are scrutinizing founders with is higher than what it was. Along with that needs to come the recognition that we need to provide the commensurate amount of support to the founder. I think that is missing in the Indian venture capital system. I think that level of support, mentoring, advice, getting your hands dirty is there or was there in the Silicon Valley when the concept emerged, which is why so many founders had exponential returns, became unicorns. In India as well, there are plenty of unicorns, but I feel we have a potential of being more than what we are now if we were to get not just money, but also the insights. Now, the unfortunate aspect is that venture capitalists are also very, very busy people. They don't have the time, but they got to find a way to actually give more time, because from my experience of having dealt with founders, they're undersupported. Even if funded, they're undersupported in terms of not knowing what to do next. They're undersupported in terms of not knowing whom to go to for finding out those answers. They're unsupported in terms of, okay, if this goes wrong, then what? So that kind of mental conditioning and discipline and being able to go at a problem knowing that this is figure outable, I just need to keep going until I find out, is what founders anyways have, but they don't get that level of support from the VC investors. This has been my experience, and I think that's where we could improve as an ecosystem in India. Currently what I see happening is venture capitals put in the money and then they wait and watch and see what they do with the money, whether they are able to do something good with the money or not. And if they do something substantial with the money, they put in some more money. You are increasing your own chances of failure by waiting and watching. So I would say be more selective in terms of whom you bet on, but give more support to those you bet on.
Right.
That would also lead to those who are not able to raise deciding early whether it is worth raising or just go on it their own way. There are so many founders who have just been led on by venture capitalists saying that, okay, look, we are interested. But they don't give a term sheet until 2 months, 3 months. They're waiting and watching if someone else comes along with a bigger check. It doesn't lead to a very good situation where the founder is banking on one VC to give a check of, say, 500K, another VC to give a check of 200K, another VC to give a check of 300K, but no one has actually given a term sheet. The wait and watch methodology is going to bite them in their own backside, is what I feel. They need to perhaps cut a smaller number of checks, but give more support to their founders.
Right, so even during my I attended a summer school in private equity as well. I wanted to figure out the buy side and the sell side a little bit more so that I could possibly later be able to contribute to the industry as well. And so also during my summer school at Bocconi University, my professor also taught us a lot about the US model and the European model that they've been following, and I could see some portions where I could see it differing from the Indian ecosystem as well. Even there, we met with a lot of funds as well who came in, including one fund specifically for metaverse, a venture capitalist who came in specifically for metaverse, and one for specifically for real estate. And the amount of due diligence they showed us also made me realize that the amount of trust they have to place an entrepreneur has to be proportional to the amount of money that they place as well, because the fund value is essentially also representative of the amount of trust they have in the entrepreneur and the venture, so that they can not only scale their business but also the money that they're actually putting in as well. So also in this situation, we also try to apply for the Y Combinator cohort to better understand the both sides of the coin. And currently, we are also sitting with the Razor Pay Rises, cohorts that have come out with having video sessions with the YC founders. So I'm also realizing that the community of founders being there is also very important. So drawing on the fact that you said that a lot of founders don't know where to go and what to do, a lot of these communities are starting to now, take shape wherein founders are getting to connect with each other and actually share their insights with this situation as well. So as of last week itself, we sat with the founder that actually got into YC, I think 2021, but I'll reconfirm that in a while. But he also emphasized on the fact that him having to go to the US was a bigger hurdle. Then after he had landed there, he had a very big community right there in Silicon Valley as well, who readily helped him create his nuanced pitch deck as well, as he put it, and as well as getting his venture better pitched to the Y community team as well. So I feel like we would be, if India was able to replicate that model as well, we'll be a lot in better stead as well.
Yes, we are trying. So there are B2B SaaS accelerators such as Upekha, which is doing fantastic work. Though it's probably a shade still behind where we need to be. I'm not trying to compare with Y Combinator versus homegrown incubators or accelerators. But in terms of whether the founders feel that sense of community and that sense of connect and have that comfort that, yes, we can throw anything at them and at least get ideas, if not answers, is to some extent lacking. And I'm hopeful that there will be more accelerators which will be able to cater to that. The current set of accelerators are probably a bit too hands-off. They need to get their hands a bit more dirty and actually give the founders a game plan of what to do to get to the next stage. I guess the level of involvement needs to be a bit more high impact than what it is currently. I'm hopeful that we will learn, we will get there in terms of founder level support. Yes, there are people doing fantastic work even now.
Right, so.
And that's a showcase of what we can do. And we can do definitely some more in terms of the founder support.
Right.
Most founders, yes, there are the communities which have been started up by other B2B SaaS founders as well. And B2B SaaS is only one subset of the entire ecosystem of founders. So those founders also have the other founders they can speak to, but it's probably not as formal or as process oriented or as regular with that cadence to meet up and exchange ideas as it could be. And maybe the word I'm missing, which I just realized, is not structured enough for them to feel supported.
Right. So taking a slight deviation from the path that we're actually in, I wanted to talk a little bit about Stoicus as well, the firm that you're currently the founder of. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about your experience, starting up with Stoicus. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the name, the nomenclature as well, because even before we were emailing back and forth, and I wanted to ask you if it is actually derived from the larger Stoicism philosophy. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about that as well.
Yes, Stoicus is Latin for stoic, and most of you may have at least heard of the movie Gladiator, where there was this emperor who got killed in the beginning of the movie. Unlike in the movie, in real life, his son did not kill him. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He was the most important man on earth at that point in time. And he left behind this journal, not for publication. It was his journal where he wrote on a daily basis. And it's called Meditations. You can look it up and buy a copy. It's very, very cost effective. It's something which perhaps everyone should read and imbibe, is that the most powerful man on earth is reminding himself on a daily basis, what do I control? What do I not control? And this is not something in my control. Do your best, leave the rest. The most powerful man on earth is reminding himself of this. And it's incredible how what was relevant at that time, and this person lived, I think, 50, 80, is still relevant 2000 years later. And this is something I also am trying to imbibe. I would not say I'm very successful in that, but then I do try on a daily basis in being as stoic as possible. But stoic is not really about being emotionless. It's about acknowledging emotions and then trying to process what's within your control and what's not in your control, and letting go of what's not in your control, and doing as much as you can for what is in your control. We do have 4 stoic virtues, which you see in our logo. It's of course words which I have sort of changed from what the original words were, but balance is being moderate in everything. Courage is having the courage to do the right thing. Justice is knowing the right thing to do, and wisdom is knowing the difference between what's in your control versus what's not in your control. And maybe you could look up something called the Serenity Prayer, which became very famous with Alcoholics Anonymous in the 1930s. So it goes something like this: God, give me the serenity to deal with everything I do not control. Give me the courage to deal with everything that is in my control and to take action. And give me the wisdom to know the difference between the two. Stoicism is a Western classical philosophy, but it also finds application in today's age. And it's something I aspire to. And that's the reason I came up with the name Stoicus.
So getting a little bit into Stoicus itself and the legal firm the boutique legal firm that you've actually been working with, I wanted to ask you about your experiences with Stoicus as well. So, sir, anything that you want to draw on, and especially let our audience know as well about your experiences with Stoicus.
We are taking an alternative approach to lawyering and to advising. We believe in perhaps pushing the limits. What normally lawyers would do is say, okay, this is the law, these are the options, these are the pros and cons of each option. What we perhaps are trying to do, and so far have at least been able to do, is hold the hand of the client and say, okay, this is what it is so far, but let's help you in making the right decision. Then let's find out what are the bottlenecks in you implementing that decision, and let's see how you can work through eliminating those bottlenecks.
Right.
And then seeing if this is the right solution for you or not. And I think that's where the value lies, and that's why clients keep coming back to us, in that it's a no CYA approach, it's a no holds barred approach, it's putting yourself and your neck out there and delivering on the advice, and also being within the inner circle of the founder. It's not an external circle, it's within the inner circle of the founder, where you have the level of trust and the rapport. You're a trusted advisor and coach to the founder rather than just a lawyer.
Right, so and so I wanted to ask a little bit more about what were the biggest challenges that you faced while setting up the venture as well as even in the functioning. I wanted to ask you what were the biggest and the most pressing challenge that you faced.
Well, we started on 1st Jan 2020, and that's when COVID hit. And I guess what we did was we embraced it, and we saw it coming to an extent. We were thankfully warned by clients it's coming. We were well prepared for it. It also played very well into the way we were trying to disrupt the traditional way of lawyering, of trying to make ourselves effective advisors without necessarily having to be present all the time. So it played into that. It made our job a bit easier, and I think we did thrive in that period instead of just looking to survive. It also showed us what is an obstacle could be converted into an opportunity. So we saw that there is this thing outside our control, which we couldn't really do anything about. And we had to find opportunities within that ecosystem which we have been given. And it is not, at that point in time, it was not going to go away for a while. We did not know when it would go away. So it was something that we had to learn. And I guess we are better for it today because we embraced it.
Right, so I mean, over the course of the conversation, we've started from executive coaching with entrepreneurs, the venture capital industry, and now we've come all the way back to your relationship with the Indian School of Business, having being a lawyer as well, and setting up your own venture. I feel like as soon as the recording's done, I'm gonna go and rewatch the entire episode so to get more insights as much as we can. So is there? I want to ask you the final question that we had that we really were looking forward to as well. Now that you've interacted with the first batch that came in, the second batch that came in, and the third batch that you've actually interacted with, what would be your one line of advice to give to them at the start of the journey so that they can craft a beautiful career for themselves as well?
Okay. Forget FOMO, embrace JOMO. It's fear of missing out is real, but try and convert that into the joy of missing out. Because even at Stoicus, we say no a lot. We say no a lot so that we can say yes a lot to the kind of work we actually want to do. And if we said yes to everyone who came our way, it would not be possible for us to carve out the niche and to do the kind of work that we want to do, the way we want to do it, and the reasons why we want to do it. It would just not be possible. So if you are clear about what you want to do, and if you don't, then get that clarity first, then embrace that and immerse yourself in it. Because that's a beautiful path. It will not be rewarding at the beginning, but I promise you, as you go on your journey, you will get addicted to that journey. You will find the journey itself rewarding. Reaching that peak is not going to be as rewarding as fighting the inner demons within you to reach that peak, to push yourself to reach that peak. Once you reach the peak, you will probably be looking out for which other peaks to scale. It's a never-ending path. That's life. That's how we are as humans. We are built to evolve and built to challenge ourselves. That's something that you and I cannot deny or deviate from. That's who we are as humans. But embrace the joy of missing out on others' paths so that you can embrace your own path and then go on your path. Your only competition is with who you were yesterday. If you improve daily and if you're consistent with yourself, if you manage to set that process for yourself, the results will automatically follow. Don't get sidetracked, distracted by the noise which comes with people appreciating themselves on social media. People do that, and that's what social media is for. Don't be a consumer there. Perhaps be someone who creates their own content there. If you need to do a business on that side, that's fine. But don't be a silent consumer there, and then don't take in all those demons into your head to think that, okay, that person has achieved so much and I'm not achieving anything. No, that person is on their own path. They may have been at it already for 5 years. And what you see today is a result of 5 years. But you would not have seen the 4 years and 364 days of hard work or absolute gritty hard work which went in. You would not have seen that. But I've only seen the end product, which is up there on social media. But no one follows you on the days that you're really, really battling to get through the day. Don't focus on FOMO. Embrace JOMO, embrace your path. There is a path which is built just for you, and it's waiting. It's calling out to you. The moment you join that path, the next step will appear. Taking the first step is the most difficult, also the most rewarding. You don't have to see the entire path out there right now. If you're able to see the next step before you, take that. And then you'll be able to see the next step after that. Then take that. That's all you need to see. There's this beautiful book called The Boy, the Fox, the Mole, and the Horse. It's about kindness, which I would recommend every one of you also read. And there's a beautiful story in there where the boy is lost and he can't see home and he's worried and he can't see where he has to go. And I think it was the horse or the mole who reminded him, hey, look at how far we have come. Don't look at how far you have to go or whether you're able to see where you have to go, but look at how far you've come. So sometimes it's not just about what you've accomplished until today, it's also about what you've overcome to reach where you are today. So that is what I would like to leave as a message for the viewers. And I hope and wish that all of you have a lot of success in your careers.
Wow. Mr. Rajan has put in so many, quotable lines today. I feel like we'll be making t-shirts very soon. So in this portion as well, I feel like the amount of insights that we have, released in the course of this conversation, it'll help our juniors and me most of all as well, and try to imbibing them into my own career trajectory as well. So with this, so we will be wrapping up the episode. I want to thank you so much for coming, sir. And with this, we'll be bringing yet another inspiring speaker, yet another set of insights that you can garner into your own career and become a better leader, become a better entrepreneur, and even do better things with your career with respect to getting better clarity and developing a mindset where you can do more in a lot less time. So I want to thank you, sir, for coming, and we will be wrapping up this episode as well. We'll be seeing you again with another episode of Insights by X. Thank you so much.